My mother was less encouraging. You have 3 strikes against you. You're a woman. You're Korean. You have a non-Jewish mother. Why choose this fight? While she voiced anxieties about my ability to ever get hired as a rabbi, I suspected that she also worried that becoming a rabbi would mean my full immersion into a world she could not. Shalom Mishpacha, welcome back to A Small Sanctuary with Rabbi Esther, and I am here to launch my Big Ideas in Jewish Books online book club. And this wonderful memoir, The Heart of a Stranger, an unlikely rabbi story of faith, identity, and belonging by Rabbi Angela Buchdahl, is going to be the first book that I am going to discuss today. Big Ideas Book Club is an occasion and a space where we can read Jewish books that are in one way or another expansive and that are going to open our minds a little bit. They're going to challenge us. They are going to teach us something new. They might address issues that are controversial or contentious in the Jewish world, and they might point a way towards greater innovation and understanding. This is not a philosophical treatise. It is a personal memoir of Rabbi Angela Buchdahl, who is one of the most prominent and successful rabbis in today's American Jewish community. She is a Reform rabbi at Central Synagogue, and if there was ever a person to call chief rabbi, she's pretty much it. Angela Buchdahl wrote this memoir to document her fascinating and important biography. She was born to a Korean mother and an American father. Her father met her mother when he was in Korea during the Korean War in the 1950s. They fell in love and then had a child and moved back to the United States, where they built their family. She grew up in Tacoma, a small town in the West Coast, far away from any kind of established or large Jewish community. I found this book really resonant and compelling, and also personally resonant, both in terms of my own Jewish journey, as well as becoming a rabbi and being a female rabbi and coming from somewhere else, as well as serving as a rabbi in a small, more isolated community. And there is so much richness in this book for us to take away. At the heart of the book, pun intended, is the idea of what it means to be a stranger in Judaism, or what it means to be a stranger even when you are already Jewish, like she is. She grew up as a patrilineal Jew, having a Jewish father but not a Jewish mother, and that is not a Jewish status that is universally accepted, not even back then by the Reform movement. Now, his patrilineal descent is accepted by the Reform and Reconstructionist movements of Judaism, but not by conservative and Orthodox Judaism. The book also discusses the place of Jews of color, in this case someone with a Korean, East Asian background, but depending on which demographic study you follow and depending on which generation you look at, about 10 to 20% of the American Jewish community identifies as Jews of color, or are identified as Jews of color. The older generation tends to be a little less diverse in composition. The younger generation tends to be more diverse. And this is a really important angle to talk about, because one of our goals of building a more expansive Jewish community should be to challenge ideas of what we would call Ashkenormativity, meaning that we center the experience and the story and the history of Ashkenazi Jews of Eastern European descent, who historically made up a very large percentage of the American Jewish community. But those things are shifting and things are changing, and our community is diversifying, and we should not assume that Jews are a certain way. Likewise, we should not assume that Jews of color are converts or of patrilineal descent or not Ashkenazi. You can be all of those things. You can be someone who did convert or someone who was born Jewish. You can have an Ashkenazi background or Sephardi, Mizrahi, or other kind of a Jewish background and still be a Jew of color. I just want us to really scramble in our own heads any fixed notions and assumptions that we may hold about that. This book is beautifully written. Its structure is dancing between chapters that are memoir-like, that tell her story, and short teachings between each chapter that really show her finesse as a rabbi and teacher. So you can read the book in multiple ways. You can read just the chapters that tell her story, or just the teachings that show her chops as a rabbi, or both, of course, and I read both. In these review videos, I don't want to go on and on and on about a book that you may not have read. I want to highlight just one little quote from the book. And this little quote talks about when she, as a young adult, is accepted into a prestigious fellowship to go study in preparation for the rabbinate. And it is really the moment where she kind of spreads her wings and flies. But it is also the moment where her identity that she took for granted and which was seamless and integrated in her own life becomes more complicated for her. She writes, "I flew down to California for the Bronfman finalist interview and met Rabbi Michael Paley, the founding director of the fellowship, known for his charismatic teaching and jovial warmth. He was the first Orthodox rabbi I had ever met, and he gently asked if I realized that traditional Jewish law traces identity through matrilineage. This was genuinely news to me. Rabbi Rosenthal had never once suggested that my Jewish identity was in question, nor that anyone else might question it. I found it hard to respond." Paley looked almost apologetic. He assured me that the Reform movement had accepted Jewish status through either the mother or father. "But you should know," he added, "there may be Jews on this trip who do not consider you a Jew." I wasn't sure where he, as an Orthodox rabbi, stood on my Jewish status, but I didn't have the courage to ask. His sentence reverberates to this day and prompted a question in my mind that replays. Who is this jury that determines whether I am in or out? I was accepted into the program, but I had been warned. So there is so much to unpack here, and I encourage you to watch my series on Jewish identity, covenant, and belonging, where I go more into this who is a Jew question. But it is a question that we should approach with sensitivity and care and compassion. I think what is really powerful about this book is that if she were any other rabbi, this would be a beautiful book. You could strip all these rich layers from her life and she would just be a really good rabbi and a really good writer. But given who she is, seeing someone like her represented so proudly and with so much dignity in discourse on Jewish identity and cultural belonging and diversity is really powerful. She represents so many people who are not really represented as they should be in our communities. And I think that is another really important takeaway from this book. I highly recommend this book as a doorway into a life that is not your own and a journey that may not be your own. Or maybe it feels super, super relatable like it did for me. But after you read this book, you will come away a little bit more open-hearted, a little bit more compassionate, and more committed to a true and enduring vision of Jewish diversity. We have always been a diverse people, all across the world, all throughout history. This is not a modern invention. This is part and parcel to who we are, and we should lean into it, and we should honor it, cherish it, and celebrate it. So I hope you can honor and cherish and celebrate this wonderful book, Heart of a Stranger by Rabbi Angela Buchdahl. I highly recommend it. Thank you for joining me for this first episode of our Big Ideas Book Club, and I hope to make many, many more videos talking about Jewish books, and I look forward to seeing you for the next one. Shalom uvracha, with peace and blessings from my bite to your bite.